doesn't matter how many warning signs people put on their properties, there's always going to be someone who trespasses just for the sake of it. From government land to abandoned buildings, it seems like some people out there are just looking for fun, and some for trouble. Today we'll be looking at 10 of the most shocking trespassing moments ever. Number 10. Bohemian Grove. Bohemian Grove is a large area in Northern California that serves as the reunion spot for the Bohemian Club, a secretive gentleman club that comes together to this part of the world every summer. Some of the members of this club include famous artists, business leaders, and even government figures from around the world. But if you don't have an invite, you are not welcomed here. That's why it really shouldn't surprise us that Richard McCaslin decided to find a way into this spot. He was convinced that children's sacrifices and other dark rituals are being carried at Bohemian Grove. He dressed up as the Phantom Patriot just to break in and teach these gentlemen a lesson. And yet, to his surprise, no one from the club was at Bohemian Grove on that day. No, but what he did find was a group of law enforcing officers who arrested him on 6 criminal charges. It was determined that his mental health was stable and he really believed that the Bohemian Club was up to no good. Number 9. Abandoned Psychiatric Center. Some of the places on this list are not about a single trespassing event. Many of these places have become so popular that there are now people who have explored them illegally. So you can expect to find a lot of blogs and YouTube videos about them. One of these places was Kings Park Psychiatric Center in New York. This abandoned building is super creepy and nature seems to be slowly taking it back. The place is now known as KPPC, but when it first opened they called it Kings Park Lunatic Asylum. It housed thousands of patients during the 20th century until its population finally declined and closed its doors after 111 years of operation. It's definitely legal to walk inside this place, but the people who have done it always take the opportunity to document their trip and share the creepy pictures that are now circulating the web. Number 8. Area 51. Anyone who loves this channel probably knows about Area 51. And anybody who even remembers 2019 at this point is going to remember Area 51. We've mentioned it a couple of times and we've seen all sorts of posts around the web about this place. The most famous of them all was a big Facebook event that called for people to show up at the gates of this place and storm inside. And the reason for this is because no one really knows for sure what exactly goes on in Area 51. The one thing we all know is that it belongs to the government and we are not allowed to go in. But in 2019, 2 guys from the Netherlands decided to stop by and check the place out. They made it 3 miles deep into the restricted area before they got arrested. They claim that even though they can read, speak, and understand English, they still ignored the no trespassing signs at the entrance. Really, all they wanted to do was have a look at the facilities, but that excuse did not play in their favor. They had to spend 3 days at the county jail and each of them had to pay $22.80 in fines. The authorities also asked them if their trespassing had anything to do with the infamous Facebook event, but they said they had nothing to do with it. I guess some words of advice would be stay away from this place. Number 7. A spillway in Utah. Many people around the world have turned their neighborhood spillways into water slides. Is that safe? I don't think so. And is it legal? Oh, definitely not. But restrictions have never stopped people from doing what they want, as we've seen on this list so far. This spillway in Utah has been used as a water slide by a lot of teenagers. I guess they get pretty bored over in Utah. Either that or they just love thrilling adventures whenever they're not in school. But the trespassing has caused so much trouble that it pushed the local sheriff to get on YouTube and record a video to warn people against sliding down the spillway. The steep spillway and the concrete bottom injured 5 local guys, and even though they didn't die, they still got injured really badly. But they weren't the first ones to try this. There had been a lot of other people who slid down the spillway and got out of it just fine. But since it's not declared a water slide, you can't predict what the outcome might be. You're doing it at your own risk. And now that the sheriff has spoken, you know for sure that you're in deep trouble if you get caught in this spot. Number 6. Ghost Town. The next place on our list is not illegal, but it is worth mentioning since it's an entire ghost town that a lot of people aren't aware of. It's a town called Little Egypt and it's very close to Cleveland in northeast Ohio. And even though you won't necessarily get in trouble for going to this place, its creepy aspect will surely keep many visitors away. Little Egypt had a thriving community between 1813 and 1951, but the development of surrounding areas pretty much emptied the place and soon enough people moved out to other locations. The odd thing about this place is that a lot of the places in it remain untouched. However, one of the most disturbing sights is that of many gravestones all around the town. Number 5. Eminem's Stalker. On April 5th of 2020, the American rapper Eminem woke up to a security alarm just to find out that a man named Matthew David Huge had broken into his home in Michigan. Eminem found the intruder in his living room, but it didn't take long before a security guard arrived. Somehow the guy managed to enter the house through the rear of the house while the security guards were at the front. The cops showed up after security arrived and arrested the man. A few months later, Hughes confessed and admitted that he had walked into the house to kill Eminem. But Eminem doesn't have to worry about that anymore since his stalker has been charged with first-degree home invasion and malicious destruction of property. However, I'd keep an eye on that rear part of the house. This guy managed to walk in way too easily. Number 4. Six Flags New Orleans. Amusement parks are some of the most exciting places in the world, and that remains true even when they're abandoned. One of the most famous abandoned places in the US is Six Flags New Orleans, an exciting place in the South that stopped operations after the terrible Hurricane Katrina hit the city in 2005. The city had begun to recover, but the park was never able to open back to the public. But that didn't stop trespassers visiting the place. In fact, it just made it more exciting for many of them as they got to see their favorite rides in a new light. The abandonment brought an eerie look to the place, and it became the perfect backdrop for creepy pictures that many people loved. However, as you can imagine, going into an abandoned Six Flags is illegal as the place is considered private property. But I guess it just made things even more exciting for whoever decided to venture into this place. As of today, the city of New Orleans is still trying to figure out what to do with the location. It's actually not as easy to go into this place as it was 10 years ago, since Hollywood has had its eyes on it and has used it for many productions. Number 3. North Sentinel Island. Anyone familiar with remote and dangerous places is aware of the consequences that wait for those who dare to visit North Sentinel Island. The people living on this island do not want any disturbance from the outside world. And even though the island technically belongs to India, the Indian government is fine with letting these islanders be on their own. Back in 2018, an adventure blogger and Christian missionary from Alabama went all the way to this island. And in order to do so, he paid around $300 to some fishermen to bring him close to the spot. His name was John Chow, and when he attempted to communicate with the islanders, he was welcomed with bows and arrows. That was the end of Chow's life and the beginning of a lot of controversy. His visit was pretty much illegal as the Indian government does not allow anyone to travel to this part of the country without a permit, and going to this specific island is strictly forbidden. The fishermen who took him were arrested, and I'm sure people will think twice the next time they decide to trespass on forbidden territory like this one. Now it's time for the day's best pick. The picture I chose for the day shows us someone exploring what seems to be an abandoned water park. But what makes the picture interesting is the fact that this person is riding a bike. That is number 2, the abandoned water park. I'm not sure there's ever going to be a summer as intense as the one we had in 2020. We were going through a pandemic, there were a lot of protests, and there were teenagers trying random stuff in an abandoned water park. Yep, that's right. If you keep up with social media hashtags, you probably remember the 7 Peaks trend. It was a popular thing among teenagers in Utah who trespassed the abandoned 7 Peaks water park to record short TikTok videos. In the videos, you could see them skating, hiding, sliding, and trying all sorts of things. One parent admitted that she was worried to see some of these kids hanging by their fingertips right above a waterless pool. Obviously, this can make anyone worried about people getting severely injured, but the scariest threat came in the form of older kids who showed up with guns and asked the teenagers to give them their stuff. The suspects did get caught by the police, but the authorities were very upset at the kids since they shouldn't have been there in the first place. So I guess the 7 Peaks was fun while it lasted, but there's nothing fun about a place where you could easily get hurt or mugged. Before we move on, do me a favor. My analytics show that only about 15% of you watching are actually subscribed. Come on guys, what's up with that? Can you guys please hit the subscribe button? You guys watch my videos every day anyway, so you might as well subscribe and keep up to date with every video we put out. Number 1. Buckingham Palace Intruder. If you're a fan of the British royal family, or if you've been watching The Crown, then you know about Michael Fagan, the guy who infamously trespassed the Buckingham Palace in 1982 and had a brief encounter with the Queen. But prior to this encounter, he had previously broken into the palace without anyone noticing. He says he roamed through the palace and even passed in front of people's rooms without anyone noticing him. He even walked by the room where they kept gifts for Prince Charles and Princess Diana's firstborn child, and then he proceeded to sit on different thrones, waiting to get caught. At some point, he just sat down and helped himself to some wine. In the end, no one showed up to kick him out, so he just went home. But of course, things were a bit different during his second visit when he climbed into the Queen's bedroom. He got arrested and was taken to a psychiatric hospital. At the time, his actions were considered a civil wrong and not a criminal offense. He was then charged with theft for stealing royal wine, but the charges were dropped when he committed to receive help. These trespassers are really something else. Do you know of any other trespassing stories that we didn't cover today? Let us know in the comments section down below. With all that said and done, that's our video for today, folks, and I will see you all next time. Later, everybody.